I'm very happy to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Marina Corradini, who is an Italian seismologist. She is a science communicator and advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion in STEM. She currently works as a temporary lecturer and research assistant at the Institut de Physique du Globe de Paris, from which she received her PhD or her doctoral degree in 2019. So welcome, Marina. We're very happy to have you here. I think you can share the slides now. Let us check.
Hi, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen. Okay. Can you properly see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Alba. Just a quick update. I'm currently working at the Euro-Mediterranean Seismological Center. So I moved from the Institut de Physique du Globe, where I actually received my PhD, as you said. And right now I transitioned into science communication. And I'm happy to open the dances today. So thank you, Young Minds of Groningen. I see there are plenty of Italians. It's so great. Thank you for organizing this amazing afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for joining this event. I'm gonna start discussing with you the path of women and girls in science. Science is a diversity problem, meaning that certain groups of individuals are underrepresented in STEM, which is the acronym for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Let's look at the statistics from the US. About 25% of the US workforce population currently live with a disability. But when we look at the population working in a STEM-related job, only 9% are people with a disability. Women account for the 47% of the US workforce. But when we look at the population working in a STEM-related job, only 24% are women. LGBTQIA+ stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, queer, intersexual, asexual, or any other sexual identity. Of all students enrolled in a STEM discipline at the university level, about 8% identify themselves as sexual minorities. The dropout rate after 4 years from enrollment is higher for the sexual minorities rather than heterosexual students. Last but not least, ethnic minorities, which account for the 56% of the US population. Of all students receiving a bachelor degree in a STEM-related discipline, only 22% are ethnic minorities. Now, in latest years, we have actually seen an increase in the numbers of minorities enrolling in STEM degrees, but something happened along the career progression. So something happened along the way and these minorities drop out. Let's have a look at this picture here, where I show you the career progression of men grouped by ethnicity. So we have Asian, Black, Latino, or Indigenous, and white. First of all, from this picture, we see that white men tend to enroll in STEM bachelor in much greater number than Asian or Black, Latino, or Indigenous. But the second most important thing to retrieve from this picture is that if you enroll in a STEM bachelor and you're Asian or you're white, well, you're then likely gonna make it till full professor. But if you enroll in a STEM bachelor and you're Black, Latino, or Indigenous, well, then your chances for a career progression remain stagnant as we progress up the faculty ranks. What happens to women? Well, actually, women do enroll in STEM bachelors in much greater numbers than men. But then something happened along the way. So as we progress up the faculty ranks, the proportion of women dramatically decreases. And this is what we call the leaky pipeline. Now, what is also astonishing from this picture, let me remove the man, is that if you're a woman in STEM, it's going to be difficult for you to make it till full professor, right? But if you're a woman and you're also Black, Latina, or Indigenous, well, then your chances for a career progression reduce even more. So you clearly see here one of the main problems, that discriminations intersect and reinforce each other. And in the next part of my talk, I'm going to focus on women and on some of the discriminations that they face throughout their entire life. Who cares? Why should we care about the underrepresentation of women in science and in society in more general terms? Well, first of all, equality is a matter of basic social justice because everyone deserves equal access to opportunities in science and in society. Equality means development, innovation. Teams with a balanced number of men and women tend to perform better and are more productive. Equality means well-being at work because both men and women need this feeling of inclusion in the workplace. And last but not least, from a pure human resources perspective, we spend time and effort in educating women, and then once they're at the best of their expertise, they fly away, they drop out. Well, that's a waste. So I'm gonna show you some of the obstacles that are pushing women away from science, actually a chronology of obstacles from childhood throughout the adult life. But solutions exist. We can create awareness, we can increase the sensitivity towards these issues as I'm doing right now during this talk. We can take action, we can do something about it, and there are resources to increase equality and inclusion in science and in the workplace. And this is what the next talks today are going to be focused on. So let's move to this chronology of obstacles, and let's start with childhood. Gender stereotypes starts following us since the earliest days. By the age of 2, children can already distinguish the gender of adults. They learn that boys and girls play with different toys and that they wear different clothes. By the age of 6, children learn that adult men and women hold different types of job into society, so that a nurse is a woman and a man is a plumber is a man. But children are sponges. They are forged by the environment they're in. They learn about stereotypes and sexism from the outside. And one of the earliest, most pronounced difference in the experiences of boys and girls is in the play activities in which they engage. Research shows that girls tend to spend more time in structured activities. So, for example, a game where there's a clear set of rules and there's typically a parent leading the game, whereas boys tend to spend more time in low structured activities. For example, riding a bike, playing outdoors, getting dirty, messy. Well, it turns out high structure activities encourage feminine sex-type behaviors, such as compliance towards hierarchy and less assertiveness, whereas low structure activities encourage masculine sex-type behaviors, such as independence and assertiveness. Now, the second most important barrier to women's career progression is the lack of role models right after stereotyping. Um, in the development of a professional identity, role models are essential because they're a source of learning, motivation, career guidance. When women see other women in the workplace, they have aspirations, they can project themselves, and this boosts their sense of belonging. So the fact that we lack role models in science and in general in the workplace, this affects the perseverance of younger women. Um, Gender bias is everywhere, and we can find it in open source platforms as well. GitHub is a platform where coders can share their codes and can validate or approve someone else's code. Well, it turns out that codes written by women on this platform are approved at much higher rates than codes written by men. So in other terms, on GitHub, women are considered better coders. But this stands true only if the account identity does not explicitly reveal the gender. Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is a forum, so there are some people asking questions, some other people answering those questions. Well, it looks like both men and women are actively engaged on this platform, but men tend to engage for longer periods of time, whereas women tend to disengage sooner because of an unhealthy community. Gender bias is so pervasive that we can find it in reference letters too. Trix and Psenka have analyzed reference letters. They have found qualitative differences in reference letters written for female applicants and for male applicants. Reference letters for female applicants tell about all the training she'd been through, all the teaching hours she had completed, the fact that she was applying for this job, which is a great idea, whereas the reference letters written for male applicants address the critical job requirements, such as his research, his skills and abilities, his career. To make matters worse, reference letters for female applicants tell about her personal life more than her CV or her publications, whereas reference letters for male applicants address his CV, his publications, and there's almost never mention to his personal life. Now, another huge discrimination in the workplace and in science is sexual and gender-based harassment, which can include sexual solicitation and advances, pornographic images in the workplace, demanding hugs, invading personal space, making unnecessary physical contact, unwanted touching, violence, sexual assault, inappropriate staring, sexual jokes, making sexual propositions, asking questions, talking about sexual activities, making an employee dress in a sexualized way. Well, sexual and gender-based harassment is against the law. Sexual and gender-based harassment is rooted in the perverse idea that men have privilege over women. And this is a culture that is pushing women away from science. Yes, because even science is touched by this discrimination. How many times have you observed or heard about colleagues making inappropriate sexual remarks? Well, the answer to this question should be never. Can remember a single one. Well, that's not what we see here, where both male and female respondents stated they had witnessed inappropriate sexual remarks 3 or more times per week, weekly, daily. Now here we are talking about sexual remarks. What about the unwanted touching? The sources of unwanted contact for male respondents are mostly their peers, whereas for female respondents are mostly their superior. Now, having children affect the career progression of both men and women. We see that a quarter of new fathers and a half of new mothers drop out of STEM after having a child. But numbers speak for themselves. The dropout rate of mothers is higher than the dropout rate of fathers. So we should rather speak of a motherhood penalty, because there's this cultural bias, right, against mothers in the workplace. Being a good mother is culturally incompatible with the role of a good worker. And research shows that female scientists with young children do not match the citation levels of their male counterparts, and they find it more difficult to access research funding. Now, this in turn affect also the chances that mothers have for being hired and for receiving a promotion. Actually, women without children have the highest chances of being recommended for hire, followed right after by fathers, which actually outperform even better than men without children, because, you know, being a father is a role compatible with being a good worker. And in the last position, we find mothers. So this, again, implies another huge discrimination in the workplace. This is actually a cascading effect. Because of their lowest chances of being recommended for hire and promotion, actually mothers face these difficulties in progressing up the faculty ranks or any levels into their job. And this implies the gender pay gap. So the difference between the earnings of men and the earnings of women. This is the statistics from 2018 in Europe. We have the shortest pay gap in Romania here and the largest pay gap in Estonia. But on average, in Europe, a woman earns 15% less than a man. Now here, I'm talking about all the paid work women do in their working hours. But there's also all the unpaid care work. So here you see, for example, unpaid care work is a family carrying obligation, doing grocery shopping, preparing food, cleaning, washing machine, etc. So men tend to spend 1 hour and 41 minutes per day on unpaid care work, whereas women tend to spend 4 hours and 19 minutes per day on unpaid care work. And it's been a year now, we are in this pandemic, and there's evidence that COVID-19 has worsened gender inequality with all this caring obligation and smart working. And if you ever wondered if women are publishing less during the pandemic, well, spoiler alert, yes, they are. Now, for me, education is the answer. Educate yourself, educate the others, keep learning, because if you know what inequality is, you can fight it. So for me, bias, discrimination, sexism are socially constructed, so we can change them if we want them to change. These discriminations are products of our culture, they are product of our ideas. So we can change our perspective towards them, we can take action, we can become advocate, ambassador, ally. If you're a woman in STEM right now, but especially if you're not a woman, we need everyone here. So take action, you can change. You can promote change within your small control zone. You can start with your group of closest friends, family, colleagues. Most importantly, water can fix the leaks in the pipeline. It's not up to the marginalized individuals to solve their problems. If you're in a position of power right now, acknowledge your privilege. Those who have succeeded in science and in many other fields have not done so entirely due to their own innate brilliance. Statistically speaking, just being male will automatically give you a leg up. If you also happen to be white, straight, and able, your chances at success are even higher. Now, today I've shown you some of the obstacles that are pushing women away from science and in more general terms into in the workplace. And I'd like to leave the floor to the question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marina. This was wonderful. Thank you for your insight on this and all the data that you showed. So I said that you can leave your question in the chat. Otherwise, if someone wants to ask a question, they can raise their hand, and then when I call them, unmute. So for now, I don't see any question here in the chat, at least. But I have a question for you. So it was really interesting that you brought up the issue related to reference letters, and as a young researcher, of course, my career also relies on that. So I am also very interested in this, especially due to the fact that in most situations, at least in academia, I think you cannot read your recommendation like the recommendation letter that someone has written for you. So you actually don't know whether there's bias in that or not. So what's your opinion on this? Like, what would be a way to mitigate this problem? Like, I don't know, standard recommendation letters, or what's your idea on this?
Thank you, Alba. Thank you for this question. Exactly. This is something which affects the career of everyone. And as you're saying, it's not only a problem in academia, actually everywhere. You need almost everywhere reference letters most of the time. So I'd say, first of all, just to be crystal clear on this, there are resources for the people who are writing reference letters. So first of all, there are resources online where people can find tips and tricks to be objective in writing a reference letter for an applicant. I don't think a standardized way to write a reference letter would be the solution. I would say what we can do as people writing the reference letter, we can follow these tips and tricks. We can follow this guideline. There's guideline, which doesn't mean that the reference letter is gonna be standard, so impersonal, completely impersonal. But there's a way to avoid all the stereotypes and gender discrimination. Yeah. It's a gender stereotypes.
Okay, so like raising awareness is always the solution, and as you said, educate also.
Yeah, of course, raising awareness. And now, yeah, if you just type on Google, you can find tips and tricks or guidelines to write an objective reference letters. You're going to find plenty of resources about it. What I would say, so you were asking me if reference letters should be standardized. Well, I don't think reference letters should be standardized. I think we should provide professors, in this case, the guidelines.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So this is something that we could do, that we should do.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, sorry, probably my connection is not working very well, because I now check the chat box and it's actually has a lot of messages. Sorry for that. I didn't see it at first. Okay, so someone is thanking you for this presentation, and Veronica Allen says, thank you for addressing intersectionality as well. And Nadav Hargi asks, as a strategy, what is your opinion on quotas for women?
Thank you for this question. I was expecting actually this question. I think that we should look at quota, not a quota is one of the solutions we could use. I see right now nowadays so many debates about using quotas for example, faculty positions, or I don't know, panel, or positions in the highest ranks in the industry. I'd like to shift the perspective on quotas, because people used to say, well, you're gonna just hire women not because of their I don't have the
merits, like their skills, right?
Thank you so much. You're not gonna hire women for their skills, but you're gonna hire them just because you have to fill a place. Well, of course, quota is gonna affect the way those women selected are gonna be seen in the workplace. So there's gonna be a counterintuitive maybe effect on those women, because they will always feel like they don't deserve that right. So it could create some issues in the workplace. But I'd like you to shift the perception from what quota can do right now. Quota are not gonna solve the issue right
sure.
now. I look at quota as something that can improve the condition of women in the future. So if right now using quota can help having role models, there will be younger women and men who will have role models to follow. So this is gonna affect the next generation. This is not gonna be a solution right now. But if right now quota can give a solution in the long term, because those women are going to inspire the next generation of younger scientists, well, then why not think about it, right?
Yeah. I kind of agree on that. I hope, yeah, I hope this will actually happen one day, like that we won't need any more quotas.
There's no magic solution here. There's no one solution.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of what is right and what is wrong, because we can start discussing for hours about what is wrong, right? But I think here, what is important to say and to think about is a matter of gain and losses. So what do we gain by doing this? What do we lose? So if this is the question, not is it right, but rather is it worth it?
Okay, thank you. So another question comes from Veronica Allen, and she's asking, or sorry, they're asking, how do we fight institutional structures that are discriminatory?
By institutional,
I think it's more like, yeah, I guess it's
I can
about
jump
like,
in.
Yeah, sure, thank you, sorry.
I can clarify, yeah. So what I mean is, universities don't typically consider whether you have children at home. They don't care. They just know that you're a worker and you do your work. They don't care if you need to go to conferences and you need to find childcare. They don't care. The only way I've found to go against this is by shouting, I have children, I need help. So, but is there a way, this is institutional, this comes all the way from the top of the university. None of them know or care, or would they like to know? So how do you get to the top to say, hello, I exist. I would like, someone to recognize that I have a complex life. I'm a real person, there are support systems needed. There are things like that.
Yeah, thank you, Veronica. So now I get your question. And actually what you just said is, I will take an expression you used. How do you get to the top? Well, exactly. I don't think any change can come from the top to the bottom. Everything is from the bottom to the top. Okay. It's gonna be, it's gonna take a little bit longer, in this way. What is a solution is, some of the solution could be to create groups to discuss about it among the person in the institute, and to try to bring this to the institutional. I don't think that if we don't discuss about it, no institution will ever take any measures, So again, we can start with discussing groups. There are conferences which are providing family caring rooms, for example. Something is along the way.
All right, so I guess we can move on with the next question, if that's okay.
Yeah, I don't know if there is anyone else who would like to add something about it.
Well, Petra Rudolph in the chat is saying that at least in Groningen, we have a special program, childcare in extraordinary situations. And she says she can explain what we do here. And I guess since she's our last speaker, she will do that in her talk. So next one, I see that Dan would like to ask a question. Dan, if you want to.
Sure.
Okay.
Right, you hear me? Yeah, so thank you very much. Very interesting presentation. So most of the data you show seems to be collected over about a period of 20 years or so. Do you have any idea of the derivative of some of these inequalities, like how they change over time? Are we going in the right direction, or are we losing grip, or And especially given that you show that some of these things start at a very young age, do you see changes in the right places, right? So you would hope that some of these things change at the right age, so they progress towards the final outcome of having paid equality and equality in the number of professorships, etc. Right?
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Dan. Thank you for your question. Actually, I do not have numbers, but yes, the situation is improving, definitely. Situation is improving for women and also for the other minorities, okay? But I can't give you right now numbers. And so, of course, the proportion of women and minorities enrolling in STEM disciplines is much higher today than it was 20 years ago. And for your second question, I'm not sure I got it entirely. So what do you mean? Do you mean if there's any?
Well, so for example, I know that I think there has been some debate about at what age one should be making your children aware about which gender they are, right? And so to actually try and avoid stereotypes. So I know some of the Scandinavian countries have put laws in place to do that, right? So what do you think about that? Is that helping? Do you think that will change things in the long run?
Yeah, okay, thank you so much. So the thing is, I found plenty of materials online. There are resources to educate your children in a not stereotyped way. So there are resources to learn about how to avoid gender bias, how to avoid stereotyping, and in literature, for example, of course, school plays a key role, because also in the school system we can find stereotypes and gender schema, which is, repeated again and again. Again, the steps, we are doing baby steps. I think resources exist right now to avoid stereotyping and sexism in play activities, in literature, in school books. I mean, if we look at a school book today, I don't have children, but I have friends who are teachers. Well, school books of today are not the school books we had 20 years ago or 30 years ago. So that's good news. But again, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks to you.
So thank you. I think we can answer another question and then move to the next speaker. Don't worry, the questions that are here, we will leave them for the discussion at the end of the afternoon. So Nana Kerlage would like to ask you, how do you engage male colleagues in this issue?
Thank you for this question. Well, in my personal experience, what I usually do is that I let my closest friends, male friends, join this kind of events, which is easier, because they are the first network. So I just tell them, and they are aware of this issue. They are happy to join. I would also say, so this is the first thing. So it's important that you have colleagues and friends who are happy to join this kind of events, and I can just contact them like this. Hey, you want to join? I'm giving a seminar, I'm giving a talk on there's this activity this day. Please come. It's gonna be fun. And this is one thing. The second thing, and this is actually a more general thing. This stereotyping, gender bias, and inequality is not only a matter a problem of women, as I just said during my presentation. So it's not up to the women to solve their own problems. Gender equality is also good for men. I think that we have shown exhaustively that teams, diverse teams with a balanced number of men and women can outperform teams where we have only men, typically white men, for example. So it's important to shift this culture from a problem of women to this is actually a problem, everyone's problem in science and in general in society. But as long as we keep thinking that this is a problem of the minorities, you know, because the problem of the ethnic minorities or the sexual minorities of women, it's their problems. It's a problem of everyone here.
Thank you. Yeah, I quite agree on that. And I've seen that many men now take action and they actively actually participate in this, I mean, in this, let's say, in solving the diversity problem, which is a good thing. So, all right. So thank you very much, Marina. This was very nice. And thank you for answering, taking time to answer the questions. You will stay until the end, right? So yeah, so I guess at the end, we can also tackle these other questions that I think are very interesting. Thank you very much.